So here I am backstage just after the show, The Golden Hour, with my guest, Mr. Anthony Daniels.
It was a great title for the show. I couldn't believe it when I came on, The Golden Hour.
Golden Hour. Yeah. And it was a golden hour, wasn't it?
It was. It seemed longer. I don't know. I thought, when's this end?
It was slightly longer,
Yeah,
but you were going on.
I was a bit.
But
you let me do that. That was kind of
you. Were interesting, and we were enjoying it, so I felt the audience deserved to hear more.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you'd been interesting, it would have gone even longer.
Thank you very much. Now, Anthony, this year we celebrate the 30th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, which was the Star Wars film I think 3PO probably featured the most in, really, out of
and
all
more
of
importantly,
them.
it was the one you featured.
And I was in it as well. And indeed, that brings me to my question. Do you have any memories of working on that film, in particular, working with yours truly?
I remember how difficult it was for me in the forest, because the floor in a forest isn't exactly flat.
No.
So it was full of twigs and vines and all that kind of things and roots. But I do remember it was difficult for me, but it was very difficult for you guys as well, because like me, you couldn't see.
No.
And I remember particularly with you, because there was an issue with the costumes, wasn't there? That the faces of the Ewoks were meant to be animated.
Oh, they were meant to be, weren't they?
They were meant to be, yeah. And they ran out of time. So the animation that you provided so brilliantly was, Warwick, 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 can you stick your tongue out?
Yeah.
Can you think?
That's
that was
my
all you
actual
could
tongue.
do. I know it is. I was there when you did it. Yeah.
That's a famous tongue right there.
When you see it instantly, you become an
Wicked
Ewok.
Ewok's tongue I have in my mouth.
No, I recognise him.
Which
Can I
sounds
get
a
his
bit wrong,
autograph,
doesn't it? But yeah, so it was very difficult for you working in those environments, whereas 3PO is more at home on a spacecraft.
Definitely, anything with flat floors, I love it. Anything with stairs, a bit of a no-no. Generally, Ewoks are difficult to work with, are charming but difficult, because they can't see where they're going either, and it is a recipe for like a Dodgem car event where everyone boom. And the thing about Ewoks is they're heavily padded, so when they do fall over, they just sort of bounce and roll. And I think you bounced and rolled several times.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the thing about it, and I suppose you found this as well, rehearsing without the head on was the important thing. So you memorised everything where it was.
Yeah, and you did depend on the professionalism of the particular Ewok to kind of remember what they'd done, because if they didn't, then they got bumped into.
Ah, by you.
By me.
Of course.
And being bumped into by 3PO is a painful experience. But also, when, like me, when the Velcro opened up at the end of a scene, when the Ewoks were, as it were, how would you say?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, the steam that came out.
So, you mean not, yes, I know what you mean. So when we were sort of undressed at the back.
Exactly, the Velcro would rip apart.
All the steam came out.
Little pressure cookers, really, weren't you?
I know, we suffered, but we all suffered, didn't we?
We all suffered for art.
Absolutely.
That's why art becomes so important, and it has a magnetism, because inside there is a human. In every Ewok there's a human.
Yeah.
Obviously not the ones you buy in the store. I don't want people thinking they're going to get a free human with every Ewok. But generally inside every 3PO there is a human, very nice human, and in some of the Ewoks the same.
What were your thoughts when you heard there were going to be more Star Wars movies? What did you think? I mean, it was something I thought would never going to happen.
Me too. Me too. I thought when George chose to just quieten his life down a bit, that would be it. It never occurred to me that there was a force bigger than George, and that was Disney. And in fact, I was on a boat, on a ship in the middle of Sydney Harbour in Australia, and there was one of those free newspapers, because I won't buy a newspaper, you know, those free day sheets are fine. And there it was, lying on a bench, somebody held it aside, obviously in surprise, horror, whatever. And the front cover was Mickey Mouse with a lightsaber, and it was about the fact that Disney had taken on the mantle, the chalice, all that kind of thing, the challenge. And I was really, really surprised and very pleased, because it shouldn't have died at that point. You know, Star Wars is too big to fade away, and it never will. You realise in your lifetime, even in your lifetime, certainly in mine, it's not going to go away.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's a phenomenon, isn't it? It's now become part of popular culture.
Yes, and I will say that occasionally I meet people who are slightly snobby about it. When I was doing Star Wars in concert, I was doing a phone interview with, and he said, I am the classical music correspondent for the such and such paper, and I won't tell you what it was, but it's a big one. And I have been stuck with this interview, so we better begin. Ooh. I so cleaned it. I explained in particular about the music, but also that films have become the patrons of the arts, whether it is music, And music has always been sponsored by the church, the crown, the whatever. Artists need to be paid. Somebody has to pay them. But also, Star Wars, look at the artists that create the most beautiful things, physically or digitally. Without the films, our worlds would be much poorer. And anybody who doesn't realize how important the phrase popular culture, like the word fan, is likely to diminish something, but actually popular culture is hugely important, and Star Wars goes beyond. It is now part of our culture around the world, and that's the really amazing thing. And what surprises me here at Celebration is how many Russian guests that we have, and Russia's never really been open to Star Wars, or many Western films indeed. I'm really excited about that. They are too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very exciting to hear there is a future to Star Wars, but it's lovely to be here to celebrate Star Wars that we already have as well.
Very much so. And it is odd to think that we did meet 30 years ago, and I hadn't put that together. And that I'm sure you found that people you meet tell you the history of their going to the Star Wars films with their
absolutely.
Parents, whatever, and what's happened in their lives. But, you know, on stage we talked about the crossing of the barrier from the screen across the stage into the audience, that suddenly we have a live experience as opposed to an edited film, which people enjoy. But you and I and the other cast members being here brings a kind of joyous familiarity to the whole thing. They kind of know us, and now they kind of know us a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I'm sure everyone out there has enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much, Anthony Daniels. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Warwick.